Sausage.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Mark Kushnez, that's me, I think, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This episode is all about Exoprimal, a game where you shoot dinosaurs in the face, torso, feet, hands, legs, tail. Did I say legs? No, I said feet. So feet and legs, two different parts. But you shoot them wherever you choose to, and you do that a whole bunch. And that's all you do. Maybe there's some other stuff later on, but I only played 6 hours because that was more than enough that I could take. And yeah, we're going to get into it. So I decided to play Exoprimal because I was genuinely excited for the game. I thought it was going to be basically EDF, but with dinosaurs. And much more polished because it's coming from Capcom and not, what is it, D3 is the publisher maybe and the developer of EDF, or was the publisher and developer. I haven't played one in quite some time because the series left Xbox, and you know, me and my Xbox, I can still play Insect Armageddon 2025? Was it that? Is that the one? And then there's also a third one. But that doesn't matter. That is neither here nor there. Speaking of randomness, I am very nervous about this episode just because I was playing around with Discord and the mic settings in there, and that once again effed up all of the things in OBS and my mic in general, and I can't remember exactly how I fixed that, so I think I adjusted stuff to give it a temporary workaround, and maybe stuff will go back and then I'll have to readjust. I don't know. It's just a nightmare. Discord, I hate you. Fix the things that are important, like your BS blocking system. But I thought Exoprimal was going to be basically EDF over dinosaurs. And just be a fun, dumb time where, like in an EDF game or a Muso game, a Dinosaur Wars game, you just go around shooting hordes of dinosaurs, and that's it. And to an extent, that is what you're doing. However, even though I knew there was a strong cooperative drive to the game, I didn't realize how much of an online game it is. It is an online-only game, in fact, where in occasional narrative, story-related missions that are still very much like the stuff you're doing regularly, they will throw you into a match with bot players instead of real players, but they don't feel any different outside of that aspect. What you're doing in Exoprimal is the same mission in these matchmaking sessions that can sometimes take a while to find, and you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And after a certain number of matches, you'll get treated with who cares cutscene about a story full of characters you don't care about, because what way is this to structure a story? It reminded me of Titanfall 1 that tried to put a story in its multiplayer mode and have this kind of hybrid thing going on. That didn't work, and that's why Titanfall 2 had a traditional campaign that was amazing and one of the best first-person shooter campaigns ever made. Hell, maybe just one of the best campaigns, period. But that is what you're doing in Exoprimal. The same thing over and over and over again, just to get treated to some cutscenes. You find these voice memos and bits of information during matches as well, I guess, because I would go to this one screen and I would be able to interact with some bit of information I found, and that would make the story progress meter tick up a little bit. I got it up to around 30-something%. But that's the game. There aren't multiple modes. You're not going into various levels. There's no kind of real sense of progression, except for this meter that shows you, okay, this many more matches until you get a new cutscene, a new development in the story. And the missions themselves become repetitive incredibly quickly, since you're just doing the same exact ones out of maybe 3 or so over and over and over again, of chasing another team basically in these handful of objectives that just have you going from point to point, killing the dinosaurs as they spawn in from portals that may be explained as the game develops, but I don't know what they were doing. And you kind of feel bad for the dinosaurs because they're just being flung in front of you through these portals that are probably taking the dinosaurs from their natural habitats and just dumping them on you. And then you kill them because they're there. They'll probably become aggressive if you don't shoot them, but it's not like they were planning to attack you. They were just forced from wherever they were in front of you. Then when you finish that area, you move on to the next objective, and whoever reaches the final objective first and completes it maybe gets a bonus or something. And then the game switches over to a handful of different potential outcomes. It could be an adversarial versus match where you are trying to take down the other team and control points. It could be a very Overwatch-esque escort the package to the end goal while trying to stop your opponents as well. If you destroy their package, then they will have to bring it back to life and continue escorting it. Or in some cases, in some instances, you'll team up and take on a big bad boss with a number of limited respawns, like the themed boss I eventually got to take down, which was, I don't know if it was an actual Mega Man boss or just a Mega Man themed boss that put in the Dr. Wily's music, I believe, at one point when it was starting to get close to the end of the boss fight, which was fun because the music is good, but the boss fight was a pain thanks to it being very reliant on teamwork, and if you have a bad team, you're just going to get destroyed very quickly. What happens with the outcome with the way matches ends is completely variable. It could be anything. You don't know going in. You may be able to adjust it somewhat when you choose if you want PvE or PvP, but the boss fights, I think, are just randomly thrown in there at times. But that is all there is to the game, except that's not according to various message boards and Reddit and so on, as far as the fans of this game who have put in a lot more time than I have. In the IGN review, I believe it said the game changes things up after 10 hours, and then it changes things up again after 20 hours. And maybe the game gets interesting after 10 or 20 hours, or gets good, or has more variety to it. But I don't know because I didn't make it to 10 hours or 20. And it's not on me to make it that far. It is on the game to engage me enough to make me want to keep playing, to see what happens next, to get to that point. And in my 6 hours with Exoprimal, that was never the case. It was hard for me to even get that far into the game. After about 4.5 hours, I was ready to call it. I did not want to keep playing. It was hard for me to keep my eyelids open. I was that bored by it. And it's a huge bummer because I really was excited about the game going in, but then after playing it and realizing it was just going to be the same thing over and over and over again with no change at all, it lost all its appeal. And you can make the argument that that's the same thing you're doing in a Dynasty Wars game or an EDF game. I think another game some people would compare this to or would have assumed this would be Helldivers. I haven't played that. But I think in all those, especially in the EDF games, you are playing across a bunch of different levels that do change the environment and the layout somewhat, that vary in what type of enemies you're facing off, and the ratio of enemies, and there's at least some kind of genuine sense of progress from level to level. And it's not just do these same objectives in this same environment where you know after an hour this is exactly what you're going to face because it's always going to be the same. You're going to get these spawns here and then these spawns here and then these spawns here. It just gets so tiring so quickly. I can't say never, but I haven't played a game in a while that got old as fast as Exoprimal. And it became clear when I was playing with other people, the ones who are diehards and have been playing this game for so long, because they would move on to the next objective area immediately after we finished the one before the waypoint would show us, because they played it so much they knew exactly where the next waypoint was going to be. They didn't need to wait for a guide to tell them because they already knew. They've done this hundreds of times probably. So that is Exoprimal. As far as I know, having only played 6 hours again, I don't know what changes happen at hour 10. I don't know what changes happen at hour 20. Do I want to know? Kind of, but at the same time, I'm not going to put myself through the misery that was the 6 hours I've already put into it just to see what may end up being a disappointing update. It might be a little bit different, but I need it to get a lot different in order for me to care, and it's a bummer because I was genuinely excited about it when I was thinking about what I was going to play next. I was thinking about Dead Rising 4, going back to that, but the save bug I had still left a sour taste in my mouth, and then maybe Dragon's Dogma 1. When I then saw Exoprimal in my long short list, I said, man, I have been really wanting to check that out for a while. That should be a good, dumb fun. I love the EDF games. This should be the same thing, right? Yeah, no, it wasn't. The environments are also very tiny. They're not very interactor. Is it interactive? But is there interactivable? There's probably something there that I'm just, it's not gonna come to me now. But in the EDF games, for instance, you can destroy buildings. Does it look janky? And maybe the newer ones run a bit better, but is it janky and run poorly and there's so much slowdown? Yeah, but that's part of the charm. Those games, they do get a pass on the polish side, but they get that pass because they're so much fun to play. And that is something Exoprimal isn't. You have your various suits that will either be ranged or melee. There is fun to be had in the strategy of team building and working together so that you have a close-up tank who has a big old shield, and then you have somebody who can fire off from a distance, an aggressive offensive melee attacker. You can have some fun with that. But when you're just doing the same thing over and over again, even that is going to get old fast because you're not going to be able to utilize that strategy over constantly changing objectives. You're going to quickly min-max what is the best option, the best strategy for this particular mission, and then that's it. You're done. So, speaking of done, that's it for this here episode of Attack the Backlog. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoyed this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, some fancy Discord roles, a private Discord channel, random drops on the Discord, and so much more, or a little more, depending on your tier, of course, as well, or you just support me to support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. But for now, adios, arrivederci.